Welcome everyone again back to the podcast Hourly. I'm here with Monigo Saygbay Hallie. She has an amazing history in HR and life in general. I'm really excited to hear her perspective on everything from checkers and rallies to her time back at Pizza Hut and everything about the hourly workforce. So, Monigo, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much, AJ. I'm glad to be here.
Great. Well, I'd like you to kind of bring us through, first, why did you decide to go into human resources? I looked at your background. It seems like you could have picked any industry, discipline. Why people? Why HR for you?
Well, actually, it was an accident, as many times many HR people say. But when I graduated from college, I went into operations. Actually, I worked at MJ Designs and was an assistant manager. But I did all the labor planning, all the hiring, and I really found that I liked that. I trained a lot of the staff. And at the time at MJ Designs, there was a job that opened up in training, and it was a nun that actually used to do the training, and she was going back to the nunnery. So I figured if the nun could do it, I could do it. And I was starting my MBA in HR. I applied for the job. Unfortunately, I didn't get it, but it just ignited something into me, and I ended up leaving the company and going to a search firm to get into recruitment. But it was just accidental. I knew nothing about HR. Knew nothing about this human capital vertical, but I was excited to get into it and just leapt right in.
Right. Yeah. And so, talk to me a little bit more about that. What really drew you to it? It's always fascinating to me to understand the fabric of, the best and brightest. Was it the business outcomes? Was it the impact on people you were talking to? All the above. Like, what drove that?
Well, when I got into recruitment at a recruitment firm, it was really connecting people with the opportunity that they desired. It wasn't until I went into Yum Brands, KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, that I really understood the fullness of HR. And at that time, I remember talking to a great mentor of mine, Joe Bosch, and saying that I want to be in your position one day. He was the CHRO at the time, and he explained to me all the different areas from talent management to total rewards, all the different areas in HR and what I needed to be a student in order to sit in that seat, and being able to just understand how you can matriculate someone through an organization, build their career, build their skills, build their leadership, and also be able to build the success of the organization. I was like, sign me up.
Yeah, and no better place than in quick service restaurants, right? Because you're starting with people at the very bottom of the salary, right?
Absolutely.
Have an opportunity to get them. I mean, it, and I know, but a lot of our audience members might not know. There's some fantastic jobs in quick service restaurants, where some brands, general managers, and area directors are making six figures, like very quickly after they start the hourly work, right? So joining this field is advantageous to many. However, today in society, it's kind of looked down upon by some to, oh, you're getting a job at XYZ. That's crazy. Why would you do that? There's no ultimate mobility. That's not true. You feel that way, I check this out. Yes, programs or, training skilled on anything along those
Absolutely. I mean, we pride ourselves in that we will take someone who's an unskilled worker, and we index high in diversity. So we'll take someone who came to this country, unskilled worker, and they could move up to a director of operations. And we have many examples of where we've done that. We just rolled out a couple of years ago a program called Leadership of the Future, and this program helped us reduce our turnover in building the capability of that general manager. That leader, he or she, is the culture leader of the four walls in that restaurant. They are operations leader, the key leader. And we were able to pour what I like to call pour love inside that person to show them how the shadow of their leadership impacts everyone in that restaurant. So those type of things, not just building their core competency on how to turn on the oven and make sure they take care of the P&L, but how to treat and grow people. To me, that's the keys of success of growing a leader throughout an organization.
Yeah, and there's just so much that you just talked about there, right? So many things that I'm also passionate about. Let's start with diversity, right? So, why is that important to you, and why do you think it's been so successful at Texas now?
Well, I mean, this country is not just it includes one type of person. It includes so many different people, and um, this because this country is so diverse, we're successful as we can be. And so I believe the same for every organization, and especially for checkers and rallies. Um, we want to have a diverse slate of people that are in our organization because it represents the communities that we serve. We're in a lot of urban communities, so we definitely want the teams that are serving them to reflect them. And I just think being an African American woman myself, I'm from West Africa, from the fourth poorest country in the world, Liberia. It's important to me to lift up people that are just like me and move them through organizations.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And what's so interesting from a business case, and of course, doing a project, research into this, diverse workforces historically vastly outperform right? So it's not only good for the world, right? The moral imperative, also good for business.
Absolutely.
And we have a lot of people that come to us there in our work and say, hey, how do I make my workforce more diverse? Is it recruiting? Is it retention? Is it everything? What would you say to somebody that wants to do right by the world and do right by their business by getting more?
I would say it starts with attraction. I mean, you can't keep fishing in the same pool. You gotta diversify your pool. I hear some people say, "Oh, I don't get diverse candidates come to me." Well, look at the pool that you're fishing in. So it starts with that, and then it goes to retention because you could fish in different pools, but you're not elevating diverse people throughout your organization. So how are you growing and elevating those diverse voices to make sure in every area of management that they're represented, um, because they in turn will go and get their colleagues who may be diverse folks to come into your organization and say, see, look what they did with me, they could do it also with you.
Yeah. No, I love that. And it's so much more effective than hey, we have a referral bonus of $500 if you bring your friends. Right?
Right.
It's, to your word, and I loved it, was pour love in,
Yeah,
right? And when you pour love into people, typically they reciprocate that love.
that's
But
right.
that's not that obvious, right? To all. So I love, love, love that you said love. Right? But one thing that you also said that I think is really important, culture. How do you define culture, and how do you work to impact it positively within the organization?
Yeah. Culture is that silent but loud thing that just moves your organization. It's the unwritten rules. It is it's the way things happen, and it's underestimated. And there are pockets of culture. I mean, you may have your culture at your headquarters, but as you get further and further away from that headquarters, it starts to reshape itself depending on how strong of a leader that you have, um, you know, miles away from the center. And so it can be so powerful. I'll give you a quick story. My eldest daughter, she was looking for her first job, and she had a job. She applied for two places, one at a boba shop, one at a retail outlet. The retail outlet paid $15 an hour. The boba shop paid $9 an hour. And to my surprise, because I know all the things on her want list, she took the $9 an hour job. But I was like, Meechin, why did you take that job? And she said, Mama, he sat down with me. He bought me a boba. He told me about how he recognized his staff, all the fun things that they do. She said, that's where I want to work. It is worth something. And so it's so important to make sure that we build leaders that create an environment where people want to stay.
No, I absolutely love that. And I always have this argument with my dad, who's from a different work generation that rewarded and tolerated the, hey, I'm going to work 9 to 5. I'm going to hate my job. I'm going to make as much money as humanly possible. But when I'm home, I'm home. When I'm at work, I'm at all these sacrifices. This next generation, like myself included, like Gen Z, millennials, we think differently about work culture. Like to your point, like your daughter, sometimes we will take less money and less benefits if we feel special, right? We feel wanted and we feel comfortable at work. And that's really, really important because, as you know, the largest cohorts growing within the hourly workforce are the younger generation as they naturally come through and turn 16 and beyond, right? But not a lot of companies are kind of thinking through that and instead are focusing a lot, and it still is important. It's not saying you shouldn't do it, but maybe over analyzing salary and cost benefits towards recruitment when that might not be what people are looking for necessarily. It's important, of course, but still not everything.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree? Am I right?
I think so. I mean, of course, being competitive in salary and benefits are table stakes. But how do you
Right.
win the battle on talent is all culture. I will bet on culture every single day. If I spend 8, 9, 10 hours in a place and they know my name, they know some things about me and my family. They know some of my favorite things, and they treat me special. I will stay there for a lifetime. People are like, oh no, people change jobs every 2 or 3 years. Why do they change jobs? It's either they're leaving people or they don't have an opportunity to grow and elevate. So if you can do those things and create leaders, build leaders that make people feel special. And I like, as you mentioned, AJ, I like to say pouring love in those leaders so they can, it can flow downhill to the people that they lead. Uh, you will create that stickiness where people actually want to stay.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. And we have a lot of multi-site, multi-unit operators that listen. And what would you say to somebody that's concerned about their culture?
Well,
So
if
maybe they have 50 locations, 25 of them are okay, 25 of them are underperforming. They're starting to feel that with the labor market, things are a little bit crunch, losing control of the unit economics. I want to shake things up.
yeah,
What's a few things they can do to, one, get a tab on if their culture is heading in a positive direction, and two, if they do find that they need to change, what are some things they can do to do that relatively quickly?
yeah, I love data. I'm a data geek. And I think you can actually measure culture. You can do that through a survey. We do a quarterly survey, a pulse survey that's just 8 questions in our restaurants each year. We also do an annual survey at the corporate office. But I would start with the survey. Let your people tell you and grade you on your culture. And if you don't have a lot of your teams that actually fill out the survey, that is a message in itself that they didn't feel comfortable in telling you about the culture. Do a listening tour. Go out in the field and unannounced and observe the culture in action, and also listen to the people as you do skip levels and one-on-ones. Your customer will tell you how your culture is. If you do surveys with your customer, they will reinforce what they're seeing when you're not there, how your culture is. And then you can take all that data. You can also do exit interviews, stay interviews. There's many ways to get at what's happening. And then when you find out what's happening, put an action plan together along with your team. They will tell you what they want. Maybe they want to be recognized, their birthdays celebrated, have an employee of the month type program. They'd want to be developed. How can I grow? Don't just tap people on the shoulder and put them in roles. Post jobs. Once you understand what the areas of opportunity in your culture is, and also the things that are going well, maybe you need to do more of, you can put a plan together and hold yourself accountable to that plan. What we like to say in our organization, we do one thing, we pick one thing, do two things about it, and follow up 3 times until the next opportunity to pulse check the culture.
Well, that's the 1, 2, 3 model,
That's
right?
it.
Right. Well, yeah. So, what a theme that's emerging from all of our guests is the importance of general managers and frontline leaders within the organization. And I think what I'm grabbing from you is really set the tone, set the culture, do the pouring of love. Because in your word, there's pockets of culture within the organization, largely within those 4 walls, right? So a Checkers in X location will have a slightly different microculture than the Checkers in the other location, right? Um, so how do you tactically, as the parent organization, ensure and instill the right culture into all these various locations and restaurants that are across different socioeconomic, you know, geographic and cultural differences?
Yeah. It's so important. I know a lot of people have in their culture, they have competencies or they have values that they write somewhere. You have to bring that to life and you have to show people what it looks like over and over. I like to tell my team 7 times, 7 different ways. You have to keep communicating it. You cannot over communicate what your culture should feel and look like, and your leaders need to do that every single day when they go to the field and use that vernacular, whether it's integrity or whatever the words are that you use in your culture. People have to actually say it every single day and say what it is and what it isn't in order for everyone to align on how they should act and show up every single day.
Yeah, right. So we have 1, 2, 3 from you, and then we have a 7, 7 mine. A lot of numbers. Well, I think it speaks. I think it speaks to one thing that you said earlier is that you're a data-driven person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is even in the way that you do strategy and tactics, you're throwing numbers, right?
Yeah.
Which is fantastic, and that certainly speaks my language. Um, and talk to me a little bit about numbers being data-driven and being in HR,
Yeah.
right? Because I think HR gets a bad rap at times because within the organizational structure, CHRO, Chief People Officer, aren't known necessarily as being numbers people as compared to, let's say, data officer, technology officer. What, how did you came to numbers being so important in your job? Because clearly it's led to a lot.
Yeah, well, you have to be a student of the business. I like to think of myself as a business person cloaked in HR clothes. But you have to be a student of the business because at the end of the day, it's a return on investment. It's an investment that we make on people to grow their careers. And what we look for in return is to knock those metrics and those KPIs out of the park. And so when you speak the language of the business, it makes it easier for the CFO, that COO, that CEO to understand the strategy and how it's going to help in the overall business. So I don't see how, I know the HR of the past did not maybe understand the P and L and understand how the programs that we develop impacts the business, but certainly there's a whole new generation of talent management leaders that understands how you invest, how you reward, and how you recognize, and how that impacts the P&L, as well as how it impacts the overall organization.
No, I love that. And how does technology play into all that? Is it the same sort of uh, mantra that if you bring technology to the team and you articulate the ROI, it's easier to get pushed through? Or is it different?
Well, as much as I love data, AJ, I even love technology even more. I have an MBA in IT, so I love technology. And what technology brings is it helps you accelerate your growth. It helps you accelerate productivity. It helps you take away all the routine, mundane tasks and let a computer do it. Where so your people can have more enriching jobs and they can focus on interpretation and strategy, or flawless execution of that strategy versus routine transactional work. So I'm loving what AI is doing out in our industry right now. As you know, we have AI at the drive-through. I think we're one of the leaders of figuring it out and having the accuracy that some other restaurant companies wasn't able to have. And it enriched the job of our team members. That cashier job at the window is a difficult job. You're doing 4 or 5 things at one time. And now having AI take the order for that employee, it frees them up to greet the customer, to get the drinks right, to make sure all the things are in the bag as they give it to the customer. So I love technology in this space, and I hope that these brilliant technical minds come up with more and more things.
Yeah, Like I still remember talking with a large franchisor about drive-through and AI like 3, 4 years ago, and the organization cannot be further advanced. And they were talking to me about the romance, the personal connection, and how easy the job was to do that and fill that and make sure that orders were correct. And I'm like, it's my experience within the inside of those restaurants. And even today as a consumer, when I'm going through the drive-through line, it is not elegant. I have 2 kids screaming in the back. I got, so many things on the dashboard, and having to communicate with somebody via intercom and then be distracted and my kids screaming, "Oh, I want this chicken, I want this french fries, I get a milkshake next, I want a Powerade, no, I want this." It's just, I just don't see it, right? And to your point, AI, I think technology as a whole is meant to augment the jobs of the frontline workers. And, in a position that's very challenging physically and mentally, we need to give them the tools they can to be the best version of themselves and give them love to your point, um, which actually increases profits and increases engagement. So I definitely.
Our employees love it. They vote AI Employee of the Month every month. And AJ, we're even moving to Spanish. We rolled out Spanish. It's been learning all the different dialects of Spanish. And so let me tell you, our employees love it. Our customers are starting to appreciate even more because over the last year, it's been able to learn to sound even more and more human to now where you can't even tell that you're talking to a robot, if you will.
Oh, so interesting. So interesting. But no, we really appreciate the time. I've asked all guests one final question. It's kind of a 1A, 1B. 1A is what is the first job you had? And bonus points if it was hourly job. And 1B, if you leave said job or were you terminated?
It wasn't a job I was terminated for. Actually, my very first job was Mr. Jim's Pizza, and I was 15 years old. And I remember my first day of work. This was back when we had telephones that were, that you picked up and you put on your ear. I know no one probably remembers those type of phones, but it was a bank of phone walls and people called in their pizza order, and on a little scratch pad, we put the order down. And I remember my first day, I cried. I cried after the first hour because the phones rang off the hook and it was me answering all those phones. And I was like, I'm never coming back here. And it was a small business owner. It was a woman owned franchisee. She sat me down and she said, "It's okay. You can do it." And I stayed at that job for 3 years. I stayed there throughout high school. After 6 months, I became assistant manager. I was closing by myself on Sundays because a woman looked at me my first day after crying, but saw something in me and said, "You can do it." That's what this business is all about. That's why I love being in this industry and love doing what I do.
That's a magnificent answer, and I'm going to put it in the Hall of Fame for our podcast for the answer to that question. Because usually we get people that say, "Oh, that was awful. I couldn't stand it. I got fired after 3 days," and I can see, hearing that and talking to you, why you're so passionate about this space and so romantic about HR and quick service restaurant. And I think, a huge reason why you've been wildly successful. So, Nigo, thank you so much for being on the show today. We appreciate your time. And if somebody on the show wants to learn more about you, what's the best place that they can find it?
They can find me on LinkedIn. I mean, I do a lot of things in my community, but LinkedIn is the best place to start. And I'm happy to have any conversations to talk about how we can make more people successful in our organizations.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. All right, bye.